At the storage base of the Omsk Armored Vehicle Institute in Russia, satellite footage has recorded the complete depletion of armored vehicles. This was reported by 24 Canal, citing OSINT enthusiast Hizo J on the social network X. The amount of equipment placed there is much less compared to previous years. Satellite footage shows that the facility housed a relatively small amount of equipment. As recently as 2021, the base housed 120 tanks, 89 armoured personnel carriers, 41 infantry fighting vehicles and 54 MT-12 Rapira guns, but this equipment was removed from storage in 2025. At the same time, the armoured vehicles and guns were stored under protective covers, which means they were in relatively good condition. The Omsk Automobile and Armored Institute is the only higher educational institution in Russia that trains engineers specializing in the repair, maintenance and modernization of automobiles and armored vehicles. Thus, the fact that equipment is being removed from warehouses at educational institutions highlights the existence of problems with the depletion of equipment stocks. Recall, Omsk Transmash machinery plant caught fire in the city of Omsk in Russia last year. Russia uses Omsk Transmash to produce military equipment including tanks and Salt-Sepek multiple rocket launchers capable of using thermobaric warheads. The EU, the US, Ukraine, Canada and other countries have imposed sanctions on the plant. Omsk is located in central Siberia, north of the Kazakh border. The city of more than 1 million people is some 3,000 kilometers east of Ukraine. By the way, in the settlement of Suzemka in the Bryansk region, on May the 4th, the Strela plant, which produced electronics for the Russian defense industry, was attacked. Russia has depleted much of its Soviet-era military-industrial stockpile, with remaining equipment in poor condition, the independent media outlet The Insider reported recently. The Russian military has lost more than half of its available equipment, and unless an unexpected shift occurs, hostilities could gradually fade by late 2025 or early 2026 due to a shortage of tanks, armoured vehicles and artillery, the publication claims. The Insider reported that both Russian and Ukrainian forces are primarily losing Soviet-era equipment, with Russian losses now accounting for about 50% of its total stock. Much of the remaining equipment in storage is in poor technical condition, making it unlikely to be repaired and deployed to the front lines. Moscow is also reportedly facing production limitations. The only infantry fighting vehicle in large-scale production remains the BMP-3, with 463 units produced in 2023. Modern BTR-82 armoured personnel carrier production is estimated at 300 to 400 units annually. As a result, Russian defence lines collapse along the front. Against the backdrop of Russia's military aggression against Ukraine, the internal tragedy of the Russian Federation itself is becoming increasingly apparent. Ruined lives, alcoholism and poverty. A video from Ukrainian captivity clearly demonstrates the price of Putin's ambitions for Russians. The video shows a conversation between two people. Ukrainian soldiers allow a Russian prisoner to contact his wife. The woman, in a state of alcohol intoxication, is in despair. She smokes a hand-rolled cigarette. Apparently, she doesn't have money even for cheap cigarettes. In the background is a destroyed stove, a shabby house, and hopelessness. The woman talks about her losses. 3 people close to her have died in a short time, including her brother, who died in the war with Ukraine. My brother was killed. Tanya died. Lenka died. Muffled words of despair sound. My husband asks, just wait a long time. Don't drink. This scene is not just a personal tragedy. It is a symbol of today's Russia, where ordinary people are crushed by poverty, grief, and alcoholism. While Putin spends billions on the war against Ukraine, Russian villages are degrading and people are dying in poverty. Instead of developing the country and the economy, the Kremlin prefers to finance destructive military campaigns. The hinterland is sinking into chaos and despair. The state is running away from its citizens. Health problems, lack of work, destroyed homes, and unquenchable melancholy are all that remains of Russian villages. While Russian propaganda demonstrates the mythical greatness of the country, ordinary people die at the front, and their families remain in oblivion and poverty. The war is not happening just on Ukrainian soil. President Vladimir Putin's propaganda is propelling the Ukraine war through Russian media, while continuing to intensify tensions with the West. This propaganda, whether featuring broadcast, as talking points on TV shows, or appearing as the ubiquitous symbol Z, works and will continue to work because it is a tried and true tactic repackaged from Russia's complicated history. The appeal of Putin's propaganda is its repetition. It draws from similar kinds of disinformation used during Russia's imperial and Soviet eras that recycle age-old narratives of the evil West. The Western world, to varying degrees, follows global trends and intellectual thought, which suggest that a stable and prosperous world is one made up of free, independent nations that respect each other's sovereignty and borders. But for Russia, these ideas hold no weight. It is neither deterred by international opinion nor by the threat of political and economic isolation. It spent much of the 20th century in isolation and continues on that path today. Russia's political elite, along with much of its population, has long believed that Russia is a world unto itself, capable of thriving in isolation.
Ты-то чё пьёшь?
Папа, у меня нервов не хватает. Просто не хватает. Нет, Алёша мой умер.
Кого?
Алёша, брат, умер.
Как?
На Украине убили.
Хорошо.
А он-то как попал?
Контракт подписал. Вот так. Вот, 27-го. Тайку похоронили, я весь сижу у них в доме. Карева Тайка умерла на моих глазах. Ленка умерла. Все, один профессор остался.
Мама, давай завязывай, не бухай. Жди. Самое главное, жди.
У меня уже нервов не хватает.
Мамка, жди. Жди, терпи, бросай пить, завязывай. Слышишь?
Ой.
Ты меня слышишь?
Здесь что творится, папка? Как тебе еще сказать? Не знаю. Мне уже все. Нервов не хватает.
Самое главное, мамка, жди, не пей.
Не могу я не пить, пап.
Не пей, мама, ты-то хоть дождись меня.
Когда?
Жди. Жди, мама,